I'm Logan Clark and I'm the garden manager at Juniper Level today, and we're going to be walking through the garden looking at some spring bloomers. Most of what we're going to be looking at today are spring ephemerals. These plants fill an important niche in the early spring, late winter woodlands. They like to do most, if not all, of their business while the trees are not leafed out yet. So they're going to be pretty short-lived as far as their time above ground, but they can be pretty long-lived plants in general. So we'll just start out here with a non-ephemeral, but this is Daphne caliculata. This is also known as leatherleaf. It's a member of the heath family in Ericaceae. We're also related to blueberries and things like that. You can tell by these urn-shaped flowers pointing down. But this is native to primarily the Northeast, but throughout wet and boggy sites. So that's why we have it here in our kind of rain bog garden coming off the front of our patio. So this time of year, you'll see lots and lots of trilliums in our garden. We have one of the largest trillium collections of any garden. We have thousands of clones and specimens collected from all over the East Coast and even some from the West Coast. This particular guy is Trillium ludovicianum. This cultivar is lean and green. You see the wonderful camouflage-like leaves. These are actually bracts, and they have these awesome little yellowish green appendages on their flower as well. A lot of these spring ephemerals have, including trilliums, have what's called an elaeosome, which is a fatty pocket on the seeds that encourages ants and other woodland critters to take the seeds and disperse them throughout the forest and take them back to their burrows. So you can see this clump is pretty healthy. Lots of little seedlings. There's a massive rhizome underneath the plant. And this plant's about 20 years old, so it's taken about 20 years to grow to this size. So this one may be more familiar to most gardeners. This is Chrysogonum. This is also known as green and gold colloquially. It's a fantastic native ground cover. It thrives in full shade to even a part sun. It's not the most dense ground cover, but it does allow room for things like Trillium and some of these Asiatic May-apples to pop through as well. So a really fantastic native ground cover addition to your shade garden. So one of the genera we'll be looking at several species of today are Sorum. Sorum share a lot of species in the US and in Asia and China. This particular species is a Sorum ichangense, cultivar Ichang lemon. It's called Ichang lemon because the flowers are not typically this greenish yellow color. They're pretty fantastic. We'll take one off right here so we can look at the floral morphology in there. They're really cool. So they're actually pollinated by ants and beetles and other little insects crawling around on the ground. And they'll crawl up in the hole to expose, get down into the actual floral structure down here in the bottom. That's pretty funky looking, I think. So next time you're out in the garden, be sure to peek under the heart-shaped leaves to look at our wild ginger collection. You never know what's going to be blooming underneath. We got another Sorum over here. So this one's a little strikingly different. This is a Sorum magnificum. The flowers, as you can see, are absolutely huge. This is another Asian species. There are cultivars of the species known as purple Picasso. This one is purple Picasso not, but it's still pretty purple to me. Just huge flowers. I can't imagine the size of bug that's actually able to crawl up in there. So I'm sure all sorts of things get up in those flowers as well. But a really unique specimen for the shade garden. And tucked up in the corner over here against the house is actually one of my favorite Erycema species. We have our native Jack in the Pulpit, the Erycema triphyllum. This is a species from Japan. This is Erycema thunbergii, subspecies Urashima. This is a really cool Jack in the Pulpit. It's got this awesome horseshoe shaped on its leaf. And here, in a variance from our typical native species, Jack looks a little longer. The Pulpit looks very similar, but you can see the spadix here. The spade is the pulpit, and the spadix is the bit that comes out of the pulpit. So Jack here is almost 45 to 60 centimeters long at times. A really strikingly cool whip-like flower coming on this thing. And another week or so it'll be in full bloom, but I had to take the opportunity to point it out today while y'all were here. We also have over here a really cool trout lily species. This is Erythronium. This is apparently a novel species from Texas, so we're not even quite sure what it is. But the lovely mottling on the foliage here, and the flower just about to break bud here. In our other shade garden, we have our native Erythronium umbilicatum in full bloom, and they're typically slow growing, but this one's pretty fast. I guess that's why they're calling it Texas Runner. This patch has only been here since 2016 and taken over a pretty good size patch here. So we'll keep moving this way. Oh wow, so even from this morning, this has opened up quite a bit. Some of our other bloodroot collections are a little further along in their bloom, but this is Sanguinaria canadensis, also known as bloodroot. You can see the very unique leaf clasping the petioles that pops out of the ground. And this poppy-like flower, it is a member of the poppy family, Papaveraceae. Sanguinaria is really cool because it is the only or it only has one species in its genus. Sanguinaria canadensis is the only species in the genus Sanguinaria. Its closest relative is in China. This plant has a really cool medicinal background, ethnobotanical background with both Native Americans and early European settlers. They would use the root when you break it open. It's bright red and blood colored. It has a very caustic substance on the inside, and people would use it to burn off warts, treat skin conditions as well. There's a lot of debate these days over whether that's real or just pseudoscience. I think more research probably needs to be done to figure that out. And over here we have one of my all-time favorite spring ephemerals. This is Martinia Virginica, also known as Virginia bluebells. Has this lovely cabbagey, soft foliage. It's very tender right now, and the buds start out this really nice pink color, and they age to more of a blue. This particular cultivar was selected from our own Zach Hill, and it's a little more pink than your typical Virginia bluebell. This plant, you won't even know it was here by the time summer rolls around. It does its business pretty quick, but it's a lovely plant and a real showstopper for a few months out of the year. A really cool fact about Mertensia Virginica is it's related to Pulmonaria. They're in the same family, Boraginaceae, the borage family. And even though these two species were on different continents, both people on those separate continents used them for very similar purposes. Mertensia was used historically by native tribes for lung health, expectorants, and teas and things like that. And Pulmonaria over here, which I'll point out in just a second, was used by Europeans for a very similar purpose. When Mertensia was first described, it was actually almost a Pulmonaria species, but we've since separated them back out. You can see here Pulmonaria officinalis, very similar to our Mertensia in the flower shape and color. The leaves on Pulmonaria tend to be a little hairier, like trichomes. They can be very irritating to the skin. biggest surprise today is that I wasn't aware that I'd be showing off a cactus in the beginning of March as one of our bloomers for the winter. But this guy is one of our first blooming cactus every year. This is Nota Cactus Halsbergii from Brazil. And you can see just this one cute little tiny flower popping off the end, and some of our other individuals have some buds forming as well. Always a welcome sight to see these guys moving. Good start to the year. And though these aren't technically blooming, they're still some of my favorites. These are Pilum Patum, which are also known as May-apples. They're native all up and down the East Coast, and they form these amazing little thickets spreading via rhizome. I've seen them push up through solid mats of kudzu at the end of winter. So they're pretty impressive little guys, and when they do bloom, they'll have one single flower coming out from beneath the foliage that kind of hangs there. I've been told colloquially that box turtles like to munch on the fruits, but they are poisonous, so I don't recommend enjoying them for yourself. Over here we have another awesome species of Erycema. This is Aosa Ringin from Japan. Has very similar leaf shape to our native Erycema triphyllum. You can see here, I've been watching them for the last few weeks. They emerge from these almost Dr. Seuss looking cones in the ground. I believe these leaf sheaths are called caterpillars, and they open up to reveal this lovely leaf. And down here again we have our Jack, or Jack has a little bigger of a pulpit down there. You can see Jack hiding down in there. But these are also sometimes known as cobra lilies. Really fantastic, large flower for some of our Erycema species, and a welcome sight this time of year as well. Here we have one of our members of the unsung heroes of the spring forest, carex, or the sedges. Not many people notice their flowers, but they're quite lovely, and again, a nice addition to your spring garden as well. This particular one is Carex picta from Alabama and happens to be a male individual as well. And the last plant for today is an exotic, but a really cool hardy orchid. This is Cymbidium goringii from Japan. Lovely grass-like foliage almost. The rest of the year it almost looks like a liriope or something growing here. But this time of year, the flowers emerge looking almost like a ghost pipe or something with a white stalk. But they have a lovely pink markings on the lip if you look up under the hood. So a wonderful hardy orchid species for our region. Just a really nice addition to your garden. Thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to ask. Come out and ask us at the welcome tent. I'm happy to help.